My name is Ethan Hayes. I'm a park ranger, born and raised in the shadow of these ancient trees. My family has lived near the Redwood National Park for generations, and I always felt a deep, almost primal connection to the land. This job isn't just a paycheck, it's my life. Patrolling trails, maintaining wilderness, educating visitors, protecting the natural beauty of this place. It's all I've ever wanted to do. I pride myself on my self-reliance and my ability to navigate and understand the natural world. I'm usually calm under pressure, but beneath that calm lies a quiet reverence for the wild and a healthy respect for its dangers. I'm a man of routine, finding comfort in the predictable rhythms of the forest. Every creak of a branch, every rustle of leaves, every distant animal call, it's a language I understand, or thought I did. The forest was my sanctuary, my classroom, my oldest friend. It had never lied to me before. My cabin, a small, sturdy structure nestled on the park's edge, is my sanctuary. It's filled with maps, field guides, and the comforting scent of pine and old paper. My days are spent alone, or with the occasional hiker who ventures deep enough to need guidance, and I prefer it that way. The solitude is a balm, not a burden. I know every creek, every game trail, every ancient redwood grove. Or so I thought. These woods are my home, my skin. There's nothing in them I don't know. Nothing that can surprise me. That arrogant thought would soon be my undoing. It was a Tuesday, clear sky, crisp air. The kind of day that usually filled me with quiet contentment, a deep breath of clean, untainted air. Just another routine patrol of the remote northern trails, the ones that snake deep into the oldest, densest parts of the park, far from any marked path or tourist route. These were the trails few visitors ever saw, where the redwoods grew so thick they blotted out the sun, and the silence was so profound it hummed, a living, breathing quiet. I was checking for fallen trees, illegal campsites, the usual. The only sounds were the rhythmic crunch of my boots on pine needles and the distant, almost imperceptible murmur of the wind through the colossal canopy, a sound like the breathing of giants. Ancient and slowed, I was nearing the old growth section, where the trees were truly ancient, their massive trunks scarred with centuries of storms and fires, when I noticed a subtle shift in the tree line. A faint, almost imperceptible thinning of the undergrowth where there shouldn't have been one. It was just a slight break in the dense wall of ferns and huckleberry bushes, a deviation from the familiar pattern I'd walked 1,000 times. Curiosity, my oldest companion, tugged at me. Just a deer trail, probably. Or maybe a small game path I hadn't noticed before, though that seemed impossible. My eyes missed nothing out here. Every branch, every stone, every shift in the terrain is etched into my memory. I pushed through a thicket of ferns, the fronds brushing against my face, cool and damp, and stepped into a clearing it wasn't on any map. It wasn't natural. The trees around it were ancient, towering giants, their bark dark and deeply furrowed, but the ground within the clearing was strangely bare, almost scorched, despite the lushness of the surrounding forest. No undergrowth, no fallen leaves, just dark, compacted earth. In its center, stark against the ancient forest floor, stood a primitive, disturbing effigy. It was crudely constructed from twisted, gnarled branches, some still bearing dead, brittle leaves, lashed together with what looked like dried sinew, dark and leathery. Animal bones, deer antlers, small bird skulls, fragments of ribs, even what looked like a coyote jawbone, were woven into its form, some dangling like macabre ornaments that clacked softly in the barely there breeze, a sound like dry teeth chattering. A faint, cloying smell like old blood and damp earth, mingled with something else, something metallic and acrid, hung heavy in the air around it, making my stomach churn. It wasn't just disturbing, it felt wrong, an affront to the natural order of the woods, a blasphemy against the quiet majesty of the redwoods. Who would build this? And why here, where no one ever comes? This isn't some kid's prank. This is something else, something dark, something ancient, something that doesn't belong. My first thought was a prank, some misguided hikers trying to be edgy. But the sheer remoteness, the disturbing nature of it, the palpable sense of malevolence that seemed to radiate from the effigy, no. This wasn't a joke. A chill unlike any I'd ever felt in these woods crept up my spine, raising goosebumps on my arms despite the mild air. It was a cold that seeped into my bones, a cold that felt unnatural. This feels ancient, like something that shouldn't exist, something that shouldn't be here. My gut is screaming at me to run. Every instinct I have, honed by years in the wilderness, is telling me to get out. I took a few photos with my phone, my hands shaking slightly, a shaky record of the impossible. The camera felt cold in my hand, as if it too recoiled from the sight, the screen flickering faintly. I felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to leave, to pretend I hadn't seen it, to erase the image from my mind, but my ranger's duty and a morbid fascination held me rooted that I reported the effigy to my supervisor, Sarah Chun, as soon as I got back to the ranger station. Sarah was a pragmatic woman, all regulations and official procedures, usually dismissing anything that didn't fit neatly into a park incident report. Her office was neat, sterile, a stark contrast to the wildness outside, smelling faintly of stale coffee and disinfectant. "Ethan, you look like you've seen a ghost," she said, without looking up from her computer, her fingers still flying across the keyboard. "Worse," I muttered, then forced myself to speak clearly, trying to keep my voice even. "I found something, Sarah, off the northern trails, deep in the old growth. A clearing, not on any map, and in the center." I hesitated, struggling for the right words, trying to make it sound official, not insane. "An effigy, made of branches and bones." She finally looked up, her expression unreadable, a slight frown creasing her brow. Her eyes, usually so sharp and focused, seemed to glaze over slightly. "An effigy? What kind of effigy?" "Primitive. Disturbing. Animal bones, sinew." It felt wrong, like something out of a horror movie. I omitted the details of the unsettling smell and the profound chill, the sense of ancient malevolence. She'd just think I was cracking or pulling a prank. She just told me to mark the coordinates and wait for a team to investigate. "We'll send someone out tomorrow, Ethan," she said, her voice flat, already typing notes into a digital form. "Probably some misguided art project. Kids these days. Just mark it down. Don't go back there alone. And get some rest." But I knew, even then, no team would find what I found. They wouldn't see it. Not really. Not the way I did. They'd see branches and bones, not the malevolence humming beneath it all. It was like the forest itself was hiding it from them, revealing it only to me. The next day, Sarah sent Ranger Ben Carter, a young, eager recruit barely out of the academy, and a seasoned veteran, Ranger Maya Singh, known for her calm demeanor and sharp eye, and her uncanny ability to track anything. They returned by late afternoon, looking perplexed, their usual trail-hardened faces etched with confusion. "Ethan, we found your coordinates," Maya said, shaking her head, her usually steady gaze uncertain. "But there's no clearing there, just dense forest. We swept the area for an hour. Nothing, not even a disturbed patch of ground." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I took photos. I marked it on my GPS." I pulled out my phone, my hands fumbling, but the photos I'd taken of the effigy were gone. Just blank files where they should have been, empty gray squares. My hand started to tremble uncontrollably. "No, it can't be. I saw it. I know I saw it." Ben chuckled nervously, running a hand through his short, sandy hair. "Must have been the light, Ethan. Or maybe you were more tired than you thought. Happens to the best of us. This old growth can play tricks on your eyes." He avoided my gaze, clearly uncomfortable. Sarah gave me a long, assessing look, her frown deepening. "Ethan, maybe you need a few days off. Recharge. You've been working too many doubles." I just nodded, my mind reeling, a frantic scramble of disbelief and terror. "It's gone. It hid itself. Or it was never truly there for them to see. Only for me. It chose me." The most immediate and unsettling change was the silence. The usual symphony of the woods, bird song, the rustling of leaves underfoot, the distant call of a hawk, vanished. The animals, my constant companions, were unnaturally quiet. No deer browsing near my cabin, no squirrels chattering in the pines, no chirping insects. Just an oppressive, watchful stillness that felt heavier than usual, like a blanket woven from dread. They know, they sense it, and they're afraid. They've gone deeper, away from whatever it is. Are they fleeing? Or are they just silent, holding their breath? I started noticing other things. A faint, musky scent, like something ancient and wild, would occasionally drift on the breeze, even when there was no animal nearby. It was a smell that didn't belong, alien to the familiar sense of pine and damp earth, something that made the hair on my arms stand on end. The shadows seemed deeper, longer, even in broad daylight, stretching out like grasping fingers, coiling around the trunks of the redwoods. The familiar paths felt subtly altered, as if the trees themselves had shifted, watching me, their ancient eyes following my every move, their massive forms leaning in. The feeling began subtly. A prickling on the back of my neck, a sense of eyes on me from the dense undergrowth, the feeling of being observed. At first, I dismissed it as paranoia, a side effect of the effigy, my mind playing tricks. Just the wind, just my imagination. You're stressed, Ethan. But it grew, becoming a constant, heavy presence just beyond the tree line, always out of sight, yet undeniably there. It's there. It's watching. It knows I saw. It knows I'm here. And it's getting closer. Much closer that's when the gift started. The first was a twisted branch, intricately knotted, left on my porch step. I found it when I opened my door for my morning coffee, the steam from the mug curling into the cool morning air. It was too perfectly arranged to be random. I picked it up, feeling a strange, cold energy emanating from it. A faint vibration that seemed to hum beneath my skin. A low thrumming that resonated with a growing unease in my chest. A warning? A message? From whom? It's not human. It can't be. No human could leave something like this without a trace. Then came the mummified bird, perfectly preserved, its tiny eyes staring blankly, placed neatly on my doormat. Its feathers were still intact, but its flesh was dry, brittle, like ancient parchment, as if all the life had been sucked out of it. It was followed by a cluster of dried, discolored leaves arranged in a strange, intricate pattern. Then a small, smooth stone with an unsettling symbol etched into it, similar to the faint markings I thought I saw on the effigy, but clearer, bolder, almost glowing with an inner darkness. They appeared almost daily, always when I was away or asleep. I never saw anything, heard anything. It was as if they simply materialized a silent, chilling delivery service, MY cabin, once my sanctuary, became a place of dread. I started checking the locks obsessively, double-bolting the door, peering through the windows into the oppressive darkness, my shotgun always within reach. Every creak of the wood, every whisper of the wind, sent a jolt of terror through me. I slept fitfully, haunted by dreams of the effigy, of unseen eyes in the darkness, of the cold, ancient presence pressing in on me, its musky scent filling my dreams. It's playing with me. It wants me to know it's here. It wants me to break. It wants me to come to it. It's a game, and I'm the only player. I tried to tell myself it was a prank, a local kid with too much time on their hands, maybe some disgruntled former park employee, but the nature of the gifts, their chilling precision, the sheer impossibility of their appearance, defied any rational explanation. No human could move so silently, so unseen in my woods. I was a ranger, I knew these woods. But clearly, I didn't know them as well as I thought. What else have I missed? What else is hiding in plain sight? This isn't just a prank. This is a summons. A claim. I stopped reporting to Sarah. What would I say? Something is leaving me dead birds and twisted sticks on my porch. And I think it's a sentient shadow monster that can make itself invisible. She'd have me on medical leave faster than I could blink, probably send a psych evaluation team. I started my own desperate research. I pulled out old park records, local history books, even dusty folklore texts from the regional library in Crescent City. I found whispers of old native legends, of spirits of the deep woods, of places where the veil between worlds was thin. One particular legend of the Shadow Weaver, an ancient entity that could manipulate the forest itself and demand tribute, sent a fresh wave of dread through me. The symbols matched. The gifts matched. The description of its presence, a cold, suffocating weight, was chillingly accurate. I'm losing my mind. This isn't real. It can't be. But the gifts, the silence, the feeling, it's too real. I'm a ranger. I protect this park. But what protects me from what's in it? I can't leave. This is my home. But how do you fight something you can't see? Something that knows you better than you know yourself? Something that is the woods? My practical nature warred with the encroaching terror. I had to find an answer, or it would consume me. Compelled by a morbid need to understand, to confront, to know, I forced myself to return to the unmapped clearing. Each step felt heavy, as if the forest itself resisted my presence, the trees groaning softly in the wind, their branches seeming to intertwine above me, forming a suffocating tunnel, their boughs dripping with an unseen moisture like cold sweat. The air grew impossibly colder, denser. As I approached, the musky scent growing stronger, almost suffocating, like a tomb or a charnel house. The effigy was still there, unchanged, but it seemed to pulse with a dark energy, more vibrant, more menacing than before, its bone ornaments clacking with a sinister rhythm. I felt its gaze, a cold, ancient malevolence that seemed to seep from the very ground, from the very bones woven into its form. It was waiting for me. It knew I'd come back. It wanted me to come back. And I was walking right into its maw, like a lamb to slaughter. But I had to know, the feeling of being watched intensified. I catch glimpses of movement in my peripheral vision, a shadow too deep, a branch swaying when there was no wind, even though the air was still. I knew it wasn't an animal. It was something else, something intelligent, something that stalked me, its presence a cold weight on my shoulders, pressing down, suffocating. It wasn't just observing. It was hunting point one afternoon. While I was checking a remote trail near the park boundary, trying to distract myself, I encountered an elderly local, old man hemlock, known for his reclusive ways and his knowledge of obscure forest lore. He was whittling a piece of wood, his eyes, sharp and ancient, fixed on me with an unnerving intensity. "You've been looking troubled, Ranger Hayes," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves scraping against stone. "Seen something you shouldn't have? Something the trees want to keep secret." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, old man Hemlock?" He just smiled, a knowing, unsettling grin that revealed yellowed teeth. "The woods have eyes, boy, and some things don't like to be seen, especially not by those who claim to know the paths, who think they own the land." He paused, his gaze drifting towards the northern trails, a shiver running down my spine. "They say the old ones, the ones that predate even these redwoods, they leave gifts, warnings, to those who trespass where they shouldn't, to those who disturb their sleep." "Gifts?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, my throat suddenly dry. "Twisted wood, dead things, things that tell you you're not alone, and that you're not welcome. They mark you." He looked back at me, his eyes piercing, seeming to see right through me. "Best to heed the warnings, Ranger. Best to stay on the path, or find a new path entirely." He stood up, his movements surprisingly agile for his age, and vanished into the trees as silently as he'd appeared, leaving me alone with the chilling confirmation of my fears. He knows. He actually knows. And he's telling me I'm marked. I'm next. The gifts escalated to a breaking point. One morning, I woke to find my cabin door smeared with a dark, viscous substance that smelled faintly of decay, like something dredged from the bottom of a swamp, mixed with something metallic and acrid, like rusted iron and old blood. And pinned to the wood, with a splintered bone, was a crude, bone-like carving of a human figure, its features twisted in agony, its limbs contorted, its eyes hollow. It was a clear threat, a declaration of war. I couldn't stay inside, waiting. I had to confront it, or drown in the fear, become another mummified offering. It's not just a warning now. It's a challenge. It wants me. It wants me to come to it. It wants to finish what it started. Armed with my powerful flashlight, my hunting knife strapped to my belt, and a desperate, bone-deep resolve, I ventured out into the pre-dawn darkness. The air was heavy, thick with the musky scent, and the silence was absolute, suffocating. This wasn't a patrol, it was a hunt, and I was both the hunter and the hunted. I left the marked trails, deliberately stepping off the path, pushing through the dense undergrowth, heading directly towards the unmapped clearing, knowing it was a trap, knowing I was walking into the mouth of something ancient and hungry, something that had waited centuries for a trespasser. The forest was utterly silent, the darkness absolute, save for the narrow, trembling beam of my light. Every snap of a twig beneath my boot sounded like a gunshot in the oppressive quiet. I neared the clearing. The air grew impossibly cold, the musky scent overwhelming, making my eyes water and my throat constrict, a burning sensation in my lungs. The trees seemed to press in, their ancient branches like skeletal fingers, forming a suffocating tunnel, their boughs dripping with an unseen moisture like cold sweat. The ground felt soft, yielding, as if I were walking on something living. Then just beyond the tree line, a low, guttural growl that vibrated through the earth, shaking the very ground beneath my feet, followed by the distinct snap of a heavy branch, too thick for any animal, too loud for any natural occurrence. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across the dense foliage. For a split second, I saw it. Not a creature, not an animal, but a shifting, amorphous shape, darker than the shadows themselves, with glinting pinpricks of light that could only be eyes, ancient and malevolent, burning with an unholy intelligence. It was massive, ancient, and utterly malevolent. It wasn't waiting for me to step off the path. It was the path. It was the forest IT lunged. Not with physical force, not with claws or teeth, but with a psychic assault, a wave of pure, ancient terror that slammed in my mind, threatening to shatter it, to reduce me to a gibbering wreck. I felt its presence inside my head, a cold, alien intelligence that whispered of forgotten rituals and endless hunger, of the countless lives it had consumed, of the forest's dark secrets. Images flashed through my mind. Ancient trees, bleeding sap, figures in cloaks performing unspeakable rites under a blood-red moon. The forest floor littered with bones, the faces of its past victims contorted in silent screams. I screamed a raw, primal sound that tore from my throat, a sound I didn't recognize as my own, and stumbled backward, my flashlight clattering to the ground, plunging me into absolute darkness. I scrambled, desperate, blindly running, not away from the clearing, but away from it, away from the crushing weight of its ancient mind, away from the whispers that promised oblivion, promising to make me another bone on the effigy. It knows me. It knows my fears. It wants to consume me. No, not me. I won't let it. I won't be another one of its gifts. I don't know how I got back to my cabin. The memory is a blur of panic and primal instinct. My body was bruised, scraped, and covered in mud and pine needles, my clothes torn. My mind felt fractured, the whispers still echoing in its depths, a constant hum of dread, like a parasitic song, a chilling lullaby. The effigy, the gifts, the silence, it all made a horrifying, undeniable sense now. The pieces of the impossible puzzle had clicked into place, revealing a truth far more terrifying than any nightmare, that I can no longer patrol the northern trails. I can barely bring myself to look at the deep woods beyond my cabin. The forest, once my home, my sanctuary, is now a place of profound dread, a vast, living entity that harbors an unspeakable evil. Every rustle, every shadow, every quiet moment fills me with a cold, paralyzing fear. I hear things in the night now, things that aren't wind or animal. Faint, guttural growls that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere. The feeling of being watched never truly leaves me. I still find the occasional twisted branch near my property line, a subtle reminder that it's still out there, waiting. I check my locks multiple times a night, sleep with a loaded shotgun by my bed, and jump at every sound. My colleagues think I'm burnout, suffering from stress. Sarah suggested I take a sabbatical, a long break, her voice filled with pity. Maya gave me sympathetic glances, her eyes lingering on my gaunt face, and even Ben stopped his nervous jokes, instead offering quiet, awkward nods. I just nod back, knowing they wouldn't believe the truth, knowing they couldn't understand the true nature of the wilderness they thought they protected. They see trees and trails. I see ancient hunger that I'm still a park ranger, but only in name. I stick to the well-worn paths, the populated areas, never venturing into the true wilderness. I know these woods like the back of my hand, but I also know now that there are parts of them that are unmapped, unknowable, and utterly malevolent. And what I found in that clearing wasn't just an effigy, it was a doorway. And something stepped through, and it's still here, waiting for me to step off the path again. And I know, deep in my bones, that one day it will stop leaving gifts and come for me itself.